Because we'll just tell it like it is. First thing I want to do is to introduce the people who are on both sides to me right here. On this side, we have Dr. Carl Bruce, a very eminent neurosurgeon, medical doctor, of course, and the chief medical officer at the University Hospital of the West Indies. And Dr. Bruce deals with COVID. He works with the doctors and the nurses. He coordinates a lot of the activities. So he have all the medical answers to the challenges of COVID, and he will put it in his own language and make sure that everybody understands. To my right is the man of the streets, and this gentleman is called Timmy, JA editor Spence. The JA editor, of course, was given based on his skill sets. But Timmy is a man who is out there in the field, in the parishes, in his community, on the ground, and guess what? This is his show really, because we have asked him to tell us exactly, like it is, what are people saying out there. We have done a poll too, so we have some of those issues, and people are going to be able to send information in. I want to begin, before I hand over to Timmy, by saying that we're all vaccinated here around the table, and so I am going to remove my mask. They can choose to remove theirs if they want, but just to say we're all vaccinated. So we're kind of in a bubble here in this room right now. So Timmy, JA editor, tell me now, you are vaccinated, as I said before, but I recall you never really wanted to do it at first. Give us some information on why you decided to do it and what people are saying, what they are saying in the community, and what they're saying out in the street.
All right, so first and foremost, we could get to the reason why they get vaccinated. So I remember one time I go check one of my auntie named Miss Vadney, right? And she said to me, you know you're doing on the street and you have to take care of yourself, you know. And she started to tell me, say, you know, we need to like pick some sour orange. But we make sure I really juice me want to drink, you know. She said, nah man, when you take some and boil and thing. So me I said, well all right, go get a one scandal bag and, you know, boil in it a day and drink, you know. But apart and separate from that, I really take the vaccine because, you know, I'm doing at the street with the minister some of the time, them, you know, and some of the time I'm going to hospital, I'm around people, close with people. So, you know, I just take it to protect myself, you know. And really and truly, when I take the vaccine, them say, which one of your arm you want to take it in? I tell them I want it in the right arm. Because I really want it in the left one, you know, because the left one too close to my heart, and everybody know me have the amount of love me have for ladies, you know. When I really take it close to my heart, you know, because I don't really want it to affect my heart, you know. But, you know, we have the doctor down here can really tell us if the vaccine really can affect the heart. So, Mr. Bruce.
It's really good to join you guys. I actually joined the panel, I agreed to join the panel because growing up down on the border of Manchester and St. Elizabeth down at Pepper, I actually joined the panel because growing up down on the border of Manchester and St. Elizabeth down Pepper, I always remember my grandma saying that prevention is better than cure. And I think it applies up to this day. Mm-hmm. So I remember at Pepper all ages lining up to get our vaccination from way back then. And you always hear a story about polio and how polio was ravaging us. And you always hear stories about tuberculosis. And the great Professor Golden down at Sir John Golden Rehabilitation Center. But it's the vaccines that really allowed us to get on top of polio and on top of tuberculosis so that those hospitals could even change what they do up to this day. And so I want to be here to ensure that we explain to the public why medical people believe in research and vaccine. Even though all of us, you know, or many of us are churchgoers, we still believe that vaccine is a way to go for certain diseases.
All right, so we have All right, so we have some questions here from the people in the streets, right? The reason why they don't want to take the vaccine. Some saying that, why must I take the vaccine and I can still get COVID? The vaccine has killed many people. Why me need to take it? I'm afraid of injection. I'm afraid of not being able to go out when I can. I'm always protected by God, so God can protect them. So why me need to take the vaccine? Tell us.
Well, if you look at the original numbers, remember when about 150 million people got infected, 2.8 million people had died from COVID. If you check out the vaccine, we have given about 4.7 billion doses of vaccine. And very few people, compared to the amount who have died from COVID, have had a problem with the vaccine. Mm-hmm. And so it comes back to what we said about prevention is better than cure. Because if you get a common cold and you can kick it off at home and you don't have to go into the hospital, you'll probably survive it. If you get COVID, once you have to go into the hospital and go into the ICU and go on a ventilator, then that's the time you're going to have a problem. So it's better to take the vaccine and prevent the severe disease than to take a chance and hope that you get through an intensive care unit. Because a lot of the people who get COVID, 1 in 12 of them also get clots. And that was one of the misconceptions. People thought it was a vaccine caused a problem. So but the clots were in people who were getting the COVID.
So let me understand you, if I am not mistaken. Based on the streets comments, GA editor, and the facts that you just gave, Doctor, over 4 billion people in the world. By the way, the world's population is 7.8 billion. I don't know exactly 7 point how many. But more people alive today take the vaccine already, at least one dose,
yes,
than those who have not taken it.
That is
so it's like Jamaica have 3 million people. It means 2 million of them already take the vaccine. If you apply, what me say, how many of them have died from taking the vaccine? Because the street need to understand that the fear of death is a fear that them shouldn't really have. Tell me, doctor, how many of them? Because I'm sure the street want to hear that.
Yeah.
Your chance of dying from COVID, as we said, 2-point-something million people have died out of 150 million. 1 in every million people may have an issue with the vaccine. So if you take the vaccine, you're always going to come out on the better side. Because even if you don't die when you get COVID, the long-term complications of COVID, which nobody talks about, are so severe that it serves you better to stay in a good state of health than to take a chance and feel like if I get over the COVID and I survive, I'm going to be all right. Because you might not be all right. You might develop many other problems and you may well get COVID again.
So the street question that you asked your J editor about if I get the vaccine, I still don't get COVID, so why should I? What the doctor is saying, remember him the doctor now, right? So we have to listen to him. Most Jamaican people listen to them doctor.
That's right.
That's as well they listen to them pastor, right? Politician, not so much, unfortunately. But what you're actually saying is that even if when you take the vaccine, you may still get COVID, you can get COVID, but the vaccine will protect you, not just from being very sick from COVID, but help you with some of the long-term effects that you could have.
Yes, absolutely. And there are some significant ones that people are overlooking. If you talk to the COVID survivors, a lot of them have heart disease. A lot of them actually have to go home with an oxygen cylinder, even though they get discharged from hospital. A lot of them have kidney disease. And then a lot of them, because of the damage done to the arteries of their penis, if I could say that, are developing things like impotence and infertility. And then you have what they call the brain fog and the brain damage and anxiety and psychiatric problems. So because you survive COVID does not necessarily mean that you're going to be doing better. The long haulers, as people call them, it is a significant problem and it has been understated. And that's why you don't want to have severe disease or get hospitalized.
So what do people must say about the impotence business?
Well, I was going to ask a very specific question, but I think you answered it. Where a lot of people saying that them take the vaccine and them don't know if it's going to do things to them nature. Because them as well then you can't really, have them take the vaccine, which them nature is a very important part of them, like the man them, So, will you just answer that? No. More people are asking.
No, but hold on 1 second. My understanding from the street, and you tell me that the other day, is that the nature, them worrying about the vaccine affecting their nature. What them should be worrying about is about COVID affecting them nature. Because the science doctor says that COVID, and I've seen reports on that, can lead to impotence at least for a period of time.
Yeah.
And in the man on the street call impotence, them something can stand up, right?
Can true.
Let's be we're breaking it down, right?
That's right. That's
right. The data and the journal is very clear that you have problems with impotence when you get COVID. And we're not surprised at that because COVID seems to have a lot of vascular disease or cause a lot of problems with the blood vessels. And so that's probably the explanation for it that they have offered in the journals.
So the blood moves slow.
Or not get there at all.
So gentlemen, there you have it. It is really COVID that's the problem, not the vaccine.
Not the vaccine.
Indeed, I met an old man the other day down in my constituency who came over to me and said, boy, him take the vaccine and he feel like he want to take another one because certain performance has been better. But that's another issue. So what else are saying in the street?
All right, so some people saying that them not take it until it being mandatory. So that means until the government come and say everybody have to take it. That's the time they're going to take it.
Well, let me answer that one because as the policymaker around the table, the government has not said and indeed have said that they are not going to make it a law for people to take the vaccine. In other words, just like there's a law that says you mustn't, if you steal, you're going to get locked up, or if you drive over a certain limit, you're going to get a ticket. The government has not indicated that it's going to introduce a law to do that. Some countries have. Now, that should not be interpreted as the government putting less importance on the vaccine as an important protection for you. It's a government instead that says, we want to help you to understand the importance of the vaccine, because a lot of people think that government is up to some trick. I see the poll that say, boy, it's politician that promote vaccine and so on. We don't want to send that signal to anybody. So ultimately, people can make a choice. But what is very important is that the choice that they make will have implications for them, because instead of them taking the decision to protect themselves by taking the vaccine, them likely to get COVID with all the very negative things that you have just spoken about. So we are urging people to take it. What I will say, though, is that those who have not taken it put people at risk who have even taken the vaccine, because they are getting the virus easier and they can spread it easier. So the truth is, you may have to subject yourself to a test, meaning COVID test, more frequently if you don't take the vaccine. And I hear some entities, some households about people who work with them, that they don't want people around them who don't take the vaccine. And frankly speaking, that is the right of an individual. If they feel that they are at risk to have somebody who don't take the vaccine, and I think they are well entitled to say, well, I don't want that person around me. And that's something that you're going to see more of. And that is why I believe that given that the vaccine is safe, it protects you, it will protect others around you, it's better you take the vaccine rather than to argue about whether government is imposing a law or not imposing a law.
I heard us say something a while ago about the vaccine and people taking the test. Why the vaccine have to be so expensive, Mr. Minister?
The vaccine?
Not the vaccine, the test. Why the test have to be so expensive?
Well,
because a lot of people get like $8,000 a week for them pay. And then now them have to go pay like 8,000, 7,000, 25,000 for your test. Why the test couldn't be free?
Well, first thing is first. The vaccine will certainly help you, along with the mask wearing, to avoid taking tests, because it means that you won't run the risk of getting sick. And the doc knows that. But secondly, the truth is, you don't pay for a test if you go to the public health system and the doctor says you have symptoms and you need to check to see if you have COVID, you only pay for a test if you are traveling or if you need it for work purposes. But once you go to a health center or a hospital and you are showing symptoms, coughing, fever, cold, whatever, and the doctor says you must go do a test, we take the sample and we do the test free. So it wouldn't affect you in those cases. But again, I said, the vaccine is what is the foolproof system that we recommend. What else are saying in the street?
All right, so some people saying that, you know, I'm afraid of taking the vaccine and what might happen to me. Some people saying that, well, if the corona gonna kill me, I do so. You know what I mean? Me dead, everybody I go dead one day. And some people are saying
what
that...
What you say about that, though? What you say about
Hold on, one more question. Some people saying that COVID can be prevented by taking turmeric, ginger, and garlic, boil up in a pot, and drink as a tea.
You know, you're right, because a woman who had a whole mix-up and tell me that this is the cure for COVID. Doc, tell us, is there any concoction, any mix? We know you come from country, St. Elizabeth, man, and you drink a whole Cersei. Can Cersei or ginger or anything like that cure COVID?
I think what she's describing is trying to build her immune system. And we encourage, it's something that we always encourage in the Jamaica health system. We encourage a holistic approach. So we want you to build your immune system that if you get COVID, that you're in a better position to fight off the COVID. But the different bush tea or concussion that you believe in that help to build your immune system will not prevent COVID. COVID is caused by a virus, and that's why we've been able to find a vaccine against it. And I think, yes, we want you to build your immune system, but yes, we want you to get into the preventative aspect of avoiding the severe illness and death. The COVID vaccines are some of the safest vaccines that have ever been produced. As a matter of fact, there is this misconception that the research was just done since last year into this year, since COVID came around, and that is not true. Remember, at the turn after Y2K, after 2000, we got the thing called SARS. It's the same SARS-CoV-1, call it that then, in 2003. And even before that, scientists were trying to find out how to make effective vaccines before 2003. But after 2003, what they're saying, instead of giving you a killed virus, a virus that they have killed, or a virus that they have made attenuated, or to use a term, less dangerous, like the measles, mumps, that kind of vaccine, smallpox. They just wanted to give a safer vaccine where they say, we're giving you a part of the virus that the virus cannot do without. So in this case, everybody see the spikes on TV. What they have done is made the spike again, the vaccine against the spike that you see on the virus. The virus can't do without that spike. But you don't need a whole virus for the vaccine. And so people mixing up and say, boy, it's a nanolipid or a nano piece of fat or a small piece of fat. So a chip is in the vaccine. All nano mean is that it's very, very small. It doesn't mean that you're getting any chip. But it's a lot of research that has gone into developing this vaccine. And as somebody would say, if you give me the chicken wing, I know it's chicken you give me. If you give me the chicken leg, I know it's chicken you also give me. So you don't have to give me the whole virus again in the vaccine. You just have to give something that covers the spike protein, and that will protect the individual. So the vaccines are even safer, and the research is over 30 years, not since last year when COVID came around.
So basically you're saying that there's no magnetic strip or chip in the vaccine?
No, absolutely
not.
not.
That, right? That's why you get some of that on the street. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the mRNA vaccine is a little piece of fat that has the mRNA that is going to produce the protein when you give the vaccine. So the body develops the antibodies against it, and then it disappears from your system. It can't get incorporated in your DNA or into your cell, as people are saying. It will disappear shortly after that happens. So it's one of the safest vaccines, and that technology has been 20, 30 years in the making. And just as you see us drive more advanced cars and build more advanced buildings, doctors are able to build more advanced medications and vaccines.
Okay, so Minister, as a policymaker, right, what measures you think can put in place to educate the people more?
Well, I'm hoping that this kind of discussion will help. I mean, even if it helps one person to understand that, one, the vaccine is safe. Better you take it than don't take it. COVID will kill you. There's no bush medicine that can replace it. Those are all important information. You're not getting the live virus. There's no chip in the vaccine. These are all important information. And, very importantly, most Jamaicans have taken vaccines before. And what amazed me is that people are objecting when every single one of us have a scar on our arm. I have mine right here, where before I went to primary school, I had to line up to take the vaccine because it's a requirement. There is no difference there. I see one question coming in on my thing here asking me if why is it that America is not using the AstraZeneca and we are using it. Dr. Bruce, you have any, is there any difference? I mean, I learned that the first vaccine you get, you should take, and all of them are approved by research. What is your take on it?
Absolutely. Vaccines are manufactured all over the world. In China, in the UK, in the US. The US have the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. Those are the mRNA vaccine that we spoke about, which is just something that they make against the spike protein of the virus. So they use that as a technology. The British also have a long history in medicine, and we are from that British system. And at Oxford, which many people in Jamaica know as part of the British medical system, they use a harmless virus, the adenovirus, to carry the part of the vaccine that they are going to give to you. So the different companies have found different ways to deliver the vaccine in the body so that we can create that immune reaction. Almost when you get that vaccine, you might get a little fever, or you might see a little swelling, is because you're developing those antibodies. The inflammatory process is starting. So different countries have different technologies, but all of them are safe, and they would not be released until all the studies show that they are safe. And as I said, the biggest study we have is the billions of vaccines that have been given. And those vaccines have been shown to be far safer. No comparison compared to when people get COVID. So I think it's important that whichever vaccine you can get your hand on first, that's the vaccine you take. But importantly, like the flu that you have to take every year, I suspect some vaccine require 1 dose plus a booster, or we call it 2 doses now. Eventually, the one dose vaccine may require a booster too. So it doesn't matter which vaccine. The best vaccine to take is the first vaccine you can get your hand on.
I want to say, as part of government, that we have been very clear that we're not taking any vaccine in the country that has not been tried, tested, and proven, and gone through expert assessment, tried on people, shown to be effective, and have minimal side effects. And so all the vaccines here, the AstraZeneca now, which by the way over 400,000 Jamaicans have taken, and none of them have died from it. The Pfizer, which is coming tomorrow, the Johnson & Johnson that is likely to come next week, all of these vaccines are certified as safe, and Jamaicans have nothing to worry about, Mr. J.A. Editor.
You know that they're worried about that the vaccine is 666, mark of the beast.
The mark of the beast. Well, you know, I grew up in the church, and I know about the mark of the beast. It has been preached to me very much. The church, as you know, is a big part of Jamaica's culture, faith-based organization, and we respect the teachings of the church and Christianity and the fundamental principles of God. I believe Dr. Bruce also grew up in that environment. But this argument that the vaccine somehow runs contrary or contradictory to Christianity and going to heaven and represent indeed the mark of the beast is false. Mm-hmm. And I say so with the utmost respect for anybody who is preaching it. There is no biblical scripture that states that. There is no evidence in science or counter-science, guzo or regular science, that supports that. And, indeed, can I say something? Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the heads of the major faith-based, church-based denominations in Jamaica, or umbrella group of churches, the Anglicans, the Catholics, the Church of God, the Council of Churches, the Seventh-day Adventists. We're meeting tomorrow. And by the way, all of them have taken the vaccine. All of them support the vaccine. And we're going to have a discussion tomorrow, and we will make some of that public. So I want to say to Jamaicans out there, enjoy your Christianity. Enjoy giving unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto God what is his. And live your life according to your principles and the teachings of morality and Christian and the scriptures. Don't allow that to deter you from securing yourself and taking the vaccine. The vaccine in no way, shape, or form impacts those principles that you believe in and that you pursue in your community, wherever you are in Jamaica. And I believe you can endorse that.
Absolutely. I was at church 6:30 on Sunday morning. Last Sunday morning. And since COVID started, I've listened carefully. I've listened the Right Reverend, His Grace, Archbishop Howard Gregory. I've listened Canon Serrano Kitson. I've listened Canon Grace Jervis. And I haven't heard them make that argument about any mark. As a matter of fact, they have been advocating for the public to be safe and for us to do the right thing when it comes to protecting the population and to protect each other. Because it's not just the vulnerable people who are at risk here. You may say, I'm young, I may get away from the virus. But you may take the virus to your parents and your grandparents and your teachers and your lecturers. And so that's why we want to have the population vaccinated, so we protect everyone and we get everyone going again. Imagine if we were still in university and somebody tell you to put off your studies for 2 years because there is COVID. So it applies to the young population too, because they have to get on with their life. And it's very, very important that we get that message out. So that kind of misinformation is not something that I believe is supported by faith-based groups or by the education system, etc. And I believe that we must be responsible as a country as we move forward, because the challenges that we're having in the hospital now is because of misinformation like that. And we are saying to the public, we need to protect each other, and we have to be in this together.
That's true, because the reason why I asked about the 666 is because I remember me that I talked to two youth, right? And them I say, like one asks one, what you thinking of the vaccine? What do you think is the ingredients? One say, yeah man, me know why night man 666. And the next one I say, no man, not that night man. So tell us, what is the ingredients inside the vaccine?
The vaccine: salt, water, sugar, fat that I spoke to you about earlier. That is a carrier for the mRNA. So it's a very basic vaccine, and those who have taken the vaccine have seen it. And as I said before, the vaccines are now even safer than when we were vaccinating in the early days against polio and smallpox and mumps and measles. The vaccines are even safer now, and we have had even more research. So I think some of the concerns that have been put out there, a lot of it genuinely, I think sometimes people just say things because even the people they quote will tell you that we haven't said that. And I think we need to be careful that people don't misinterpret things about the size of the vaccine, etc., or the problems that the COVID caused, they assign it to the vaccine. We need to be careful, and we need to work together as a country, because all of us, whichever sector of the society you need, we need to protect each other, even if we think we get away if we get the virus.
Understood. So I have two more questions here. What is the difference between all the vaccine and some people choose to take the Pfizer over the AstraZeneca?
So it's just depend on how the companies agree to deliver, or how the different scientists deliver the vaccine. You almost could argue in terms of brands, you know. Different people drive different cars, but everybody gets to work in their car. So the mRNA vaccine, as I say, is a Pfizer vaccine, and the Moderna vaccine from the US is 2 doses. Then you have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is 1 dose. The mRNA vaccines are delivered in a small piece of fat, while the other vaccines are delivered in a harmless virus, the adenovirus. That's like the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So the vaccines have to go through the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial, and then trial in the population and show that they perform. Not only that the performance that they are safe, but also that they protect you from severe illness and from death. And I believe all of these vaccines, the reason why they have given so many of them worldwide is because the vaccines have again and again proven to be safe. And as I said, it's now over a year. If you look at the time that we did the study all the way to now, it's over a year since we've been given this vaccine. And it's clearly proven that the vaccines are very safe and very effective in what we want them to do.
One question before you come in, Jay, editor. Today I announced the presence of another variant strain, the Delta strain. And I think people need to understand this issue of strains, one. And secondly, may want to know, some people have asked me, are these vaccines that we have now going to protect us from this new strain? Because the truth is, this new strain is more contagious. And I want to say to young people, you're not immune to this virus. Younger people are getting COVID. Younger people are going to hospital, and younger people are dying. So all of us need to take the vaccine within the particular age group. And I think the Delta strain argument is one that is now dominant, and which I wanted you to address what the strain means and whether or not the current vaccines can deal with it.
So it's important that people realize that viruses, what they call mutate, they change. The good thing is that even though the virus is changing, and the virus, first of all, needs an opportunity to change. So if you have a lot of disease, or the disease burden is high, like in India or Brazil or in the UK, then because the virus is passing around in the population, the virus gets time to change and becomes dangerous. If you get vaccinated and you create a dead end for the virus, so the virus doesn't have many people to replicate in, then the virus can't change. And we shut down the pandemic much earlier. But the good thing is that the scientists have researched and selected the spike protein, the pricks that you see on the virus. And the vaccines are against that prick, and those spikes have not yet changed, and so the vaccines are still effective against the spike protein. And I think that's the key shot there, because if we now get a virus that mutates because we don't vaccinate and try and reduce the burden of disease in the community, then the virus might mutate and eventually change from the spike protein, and then we may have to find another vaccine next season, or a vaccine that's more effective against the new spike protein that the virus creates. But right now it's still effective against the spike protein, and that's an excellent choice that the scientists and researchers made to make the vaccine against that part.
But the big argument here is that if enough of us don't take the vaccine, then the virus becomes more dangerous.
Yes.
What you're basically saying is that if you can't depend on somebody else to take the vaccine and say you are going to be safe, because if that person depending on you and you depending on them, then less and less people are going to take the vaccine, and the virus changes the more people it infects. So if I get the virus, you get the virus, there's no vaccine in the population. After a while, the virus look like one thing, and then it all of a sudden look like something else. And when it look like something else, it becomes more dangerous. The good thing is, all the vaccines we have now, the Pfizer coming tomorrow, the AstraZeneca we have been using, the J&J coming, can protect us against all of these different strains or variants. And what it means is that we must hurry up and take it so that we can overcome the issues of the vaccine, of the virus.
So I have a question. Is there a possibility that we might have to take another separate set of vaccine? Depending on the different
it's a booster,
changes.
it's a booster you're talking about. But may you take booster for even the regular vaccine we got at all age school. Remember, when you were going for your vaccine or when we're taking our kids for a vaccine, you take several shots. What we're saying, even like the flu, so we usually ask the elderly population because they can die from the flu each season. Every season that the virus mutates, you give a new booster. So yes, and it's okay to take a booster because if you look at the number of cases worldwide, what happened in India and in Brazil, then you know that the virus is going to mutate. So eventually, I believe that all of us should expect that we'll need a booster.
By the way, the flu shot is the same.
Yes.
Flu virus changes over
absolutely.
time. So you have different types, and then you have to make adjustment in order to deal with it. I think you were asking me a question about, before the program came, about pregnant women and vaccine.
Yeah. A lot of people saying that, a lot of females saying that, I bet them they have them kids long time before COVID come in because, that's COVID coming. Then probably they go take the vaccine and then they can't.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things that has been carefully researched. And Dr. Sean Winter, the head of obstetrics and gynecology, and Dr. Carol Ratchery, and they have done a lot of work in this area to ensure that we are given the right advice. It is clear that it is better for pregnant women to take the vaccine and be protected. And many scientists have shown that the babies also get some protection when the mother is vaccinated. And we have not seen any ill effects of the vaccine in pregnant women. It's similar to the population. I also got a question about blood donation. If you donate blood, can you take the vaccine? Absolutely. You can take the vaccine. And as you've heard me said several times, many times when you hear us call for plasma donation at the university, it's because we want to get the antibodies from somebody who has recovered from the vaccine to give to somebody else to help to fight the virus. So the same antibodies that the virus can produce is the same antibodies we want you to produce with the vaccine. But the vaccine is more effective in doing it than you catching the virus. Because when you catch the virus, you might create several different antibodies that does not necessarily protect you. And so you'll get the COVID again and then you might become a long hauler. So it's better to get the vaccine that we know protects with that antibody that's created by the vaccine than to try and claim that all of us are going to catch COVID and we're protected. You don't get protection that way.
Oh, so that means that like a baby mother from the first day she get pregnant up to the 9 months, anytime during that time, she can still.
Yes, and we always prefer in what we call the second and third trimester. The pregnancy is 9 months. Usually many doctors will say in the second 3 months and the third 3 months, it's better to take vaccines or any medication at all for that reason. That's just out of an abundance of caution. But the vaccine is recommended for pregnant women and recommended in pregnancy. And as I said, the baby will get some protection too.
Well, basically, we have already said that the vaccine is not the virus. It's not the live virus. And therefore, if it's not the live virus, it's not the COVID virus that you take in the vaccine, then clearly it wouldn't be of any danger to a woman who is pregnant. And the science is supporting that. I want to say, of course, that I am the only one not wearing a mask around the table. I do have my mask. I had it on. But I think it's an important point to make, because I saw somebody asking the question, that when you are vaccinated, we still recommend that you wear a mask. And the reason for that is that you could still pick up the virus and transmit it to an unvaccinated person who would be in greater danger than someone who is vaccinated, because they don't have the resistance, they don't have the immunity, they don't have the protection from the vaccine. We're in a room where all three of us have been vaccinated, and therefore you do have some flexibility in terms of the mask wearing, because all three of us have the protection from having had our vaccine, both first and second dose. So I just want to say that we feel a little safer here because we're kind of in a bubble. All of us have taken the vaccine. What else is happening on the streets now, Jay?
All right, so I have somebody asking the work from home measure, right? Since although you announced today that there's some strain of the Delta here.
Yes.
Is that measure going to be in place now?
Work from home? Well, I don't know. I don't make these decisions on my own, obviously. We run a government with a cabinet and the Prime Minister who chairs it. What I will say to people is that we have seen the virus spreading in workplaces. Tonight on the news, yesterday, there was a big issue at one particular workplace where 100 persons tested positive. And unfortunately, the manager died at this facility. You know, it's sad. It really is sad, because what it says is that we're still vulnerable. And any space you are in, particularly if you're unvaccinated, you are vulnerable. The virus spreads, and the new variant strain will spread faster. And so my message to people at work or going out to work or have colleagues around them working is that you must play your part by encouraging those people to get vaccinated, and make sure you get vaccinated yourself. Because you might be on your own business, working hard to take care of your children, your family, to enjoy your life, and bam, COVID reach you. You're never vaccinated, and the worst has happened. And we don't want that to happen. So I don't know about the work from home. That's something that companies will decide, and the government has encouraged it, but has not mandated it. That's not something that we do. But what I'll say to people working, whether you are the on-cart man, whether you are the floor cleaner or the general manager, the vaccine will protect you at work. And we all want to work. Take the vaccine and give yourself protection, and encourage your co-workers to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for people to understand. The reason why we're worried about the health services, the hospitals being overwhelmed, and us not being able to treat patients, is those patients who are hypoxic, their oxygen level is low, who are critically ill or need a ventilator, or the people who get so ill that they die. The vaccine prevents that. So you take the vaccine, you may get a mild illness. You can still get COVID, but it's mild. But you don't end up in an ICU, and the death rate is completely decreased when people are vaccinated. And it's very, very important that the population understands that. Because I think people have this thing that, well, I might take the vaccine and I might still get the corona. The corona is contagious. But what you do, you take the sting out of it, if I could say that. And if you're not in an ICU on 4 or 5 different machines, and you're going to survive, and it's a mild illness that you get or a stuffy nose, that's excellent compared to you battling for your life. And people need to understand that it prevents severe illness and death, but you can still catch a milder form of COVID.
Right, I heard you talk about ICU. I think you need to probably explain to the Jamaican people in depth about ICU and what it really do to people. And also, when you're on an oxygen machine, a ventilator, it's very hard to breathe. You need to tell them that, because they don't really understand.
Yeah. I think, critical care in Jamaica, and I must say hi to all the critical care folks. They have done a tremendous job for us in the health sector. Dr. Mettler, Dr. Tufton, all the guys at KPH, and to the infectious diseases people. They have really done a tremendous job. What they're trying to do is, when an organ fails, they are trying to support that organ. So you might have a lung failure, so they put you on a ventilator. You might have a heart failure, they might put you on a balloon pump. You might have a kidney failure, they put you on a dialysis. They want to monitor your blood pressure to say it's not falling. So all the different systems that you have, they will try to support those systems until the system can recover or chips back in. And that's what an intensive care unit is. And if you come into one of those advanced units somewhere at the university, you will say, my goodness, the amount of technology that's there. But they need it. But what we're saying is, if you get to that point where we have to be expending so much energy, so much resources, etc., and managing one patient, we'd rather manage 50 other patients. But there's another problem it causes in the population. All the people with heart attack, stroke, kidney disease who need their treatment, that treatment has been put off because more than half of the ICU beds are being used for COVID. So what we are saying to the population, if we can avoid severe illness and death, critical illness, then not only are you helping those people who might unfortunately suffer another problem or even a motor vehicle accident, but what you're also doing is preventing the resources that could have treated those patients from being used for COVID patients. And it's very, very important that as a country we work on that together.
What are the chances of someone being on a ventilator?
You know, when COVID started, the scientists thought when your lung fail, that we have to ventilate you. When your oxygen level falls so low. What we have done subsequently as the disease has evolved, we have gone to more what we call high flow nasal oxygen, where rather than put the tube in and ventilate you, we put the mask on and we pump in the oxygen. And we will do that for as long as you tolerate it and as long as your system tolerates that oxygenation. Because when you go on a ventilator, even though some people survive, a lot of people don't. And we have learned that from the Italian experience also. So we try to use a high flow nasal oxygen system, and we have really tried to avoid ventilating. But when we have to, we will. And some people will survive, but we cannot take that chance.
I want to be more graphic, if I may, J. Editor.
Yeah,
because I have had the opportunity as Minister of Health to tour hospitals, every single one in Jamaica, and to venture with my protective gear in the ICU. These are the units where you're there alone if you're sick. You're monitored because it's a contagious disease. You have other people sitting around, lying around you, but them sick too. Doctors come in on a needs basis, or nurses, and you're on this machine, struggling to breathe. I'm not here to scare anybody. The oxygen, after a while, comes under pressure because the more people is the more you need. And you get to a point sometimes where you don't have enough. And, you know, I believe at some point every one of us have been in a context where we're having a flu, a stuffy nose, can't get the kind of free passage of air that we need. It's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling. It's bad to look at, much less to be a part of it. And I only said to people out there in the street, I say, you know, we enjoy life and the freedoms that life has to offer. We live and we will die one day. But if we can avoid premature death, meaning dying before our time, that's what we call it. And if we can avoid going into hospital and dying because we can't catch our breath, because one man told me who survived from COVID that it was like his lung became concrete. Couldn't get the air in and the air out. That's why you get the ventilator. It's not a nice thing. And we owe it to ourselves to try and avoid falling in that trap. And also, if we were to get COVID and survive, to passing it on to somebody else. And I think the man on the street, all of us as Jamaicans must appreciate the importance of that kind of responsibility that we have to ourselves and to the people around us, the family, the friends, and so on. So, you know, try and avoid the ICU unit and the ventilator and the high nasal flow oxygen, because it means that you're really going downhill when you get to that point.
Yeah, and my understanding of the ICU is that even when people are in there, other relatives and them come there, them can't see them. Them can't. It's like so near, experience, but so far. No. So we just want to make them know that it's not.
Yeah, I mean, you try your best to facilitate, and you can try and do a video call or a virtual call. We try. The nurses and doctors sometimes will use an iPad for your relative to talk to you. But it's not the usual support of a Jamaican nurse to pat you down and talk to you and explain to you what's happening. And because the system is overwhelmed, you don't have the patient-to-nurse ratio. So the situation is compounded by the fact that there are so many people getting ill. And that is why we need to ensure that we correct the misinformation to avoid all these severe problems. The other challenge that we heard early on were people wondering whether or not if I have an underlying illness, if the vaccine is going to trigger it. No. When you have an underlying illness, you are more at risk for dying if you get COVID. And so we have a careful system when you come to the vaccine center to ensure that we assess you. But the vaccine doesn't trigger your underlying illness. The vaccine protects you and ensure that if you get COVID, your underlying comorbidity or illness does not cause you to go downhill. And you would have heard a lot about the heart problems and the lung problems in people who catch COVID. And it's similar, somebody say, boy, I may have had a little allergy, can I take the vaccine? Yes, you can take the vaccines. Sure, if you tell the team at the vaccine center that you had an allergy, they will assess you. But generally speaking, most people are eligible for the vaccine, including those who have an allergy. And we have a careful, and we monitor you 15 minutes if you're fine, and we'll even monitor for half hour if you are somebody who has something that we're concerned about. And the vaccine centers are also fully equipped, and we have not had any major challenges in our vaccine center at the university.
Okay, so Mr. Minister, like for example, all of this information, right? How can we get it across to the deaf people and the blind people? How can we...
The disabled community.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. And the truth is that we need to do more. And as government, we have to reach out to the organizations that represent the disabled community. I know my good friend Floyd Morris, who as you know, is a senator, opposition senator. And he has reached out to me, and I think I need to sit down with him and to have a discussion, as well as others in that community. The vaccines are available to all who are of the age, and we do push out the promos, the information as to where it's taking place. But certainly, I think we have to make special provision for certain groups, and that will include the disabled community. But we have done some reaching out. We need to do more. And I want to say that we are available to provide special services to deliver the vaccines at locations for special groups like the disabled community, but also golden agers. We go to the infirmaries, we go to the old age homes, we take the vaccine to them. And so if there are any out there that have not yet gotten that service, they can contact the Ministry of Health at the parish level or at head office, and we will make the necessary provisions for that.
Cool. And I heard that some vaccine coming tomorrow.
Yes, we have vaccines coming tomorrow, and the Pfizer vaccine. And some people are asking, why is it that we're getting vaccine as opposed to buying it? And there's suspicion that somehow people don't want it, that's why they're giving us. And I think that's important to solve that problem, to address that. The truth of the matter is that because vaccines are scarce, because the world demands it, right? Everybody wants it because everybody's looking for a treatment to cure COVID or to address COVID. The countries that manufacture vaccine will take their preference or first. They'll satisfy their demand first. And even when you have money to buy it, because Jamaica has put aside money to buy it, we can't get it to buy until more supply is available. So what you have is that we negotiate getting vaccines from those countries that have stockpiled it, and they give us some, and we also offer and negotiate to buy from companies in countries that have to sell. So we're buying the Johnson & Johnson because we had an opportunity to buy it, and we have paid 1.8 million US, at nearly 2 million US for 1 point something million doses of Johnson. That's a single dose one. We're getting Pfizer because that's the one that America uses primarily. They use Pfizer and Moderna. And we get AstraZeneca from the UK because that's where it's produced. So they gave us that. But we have also bought some AstraZeneca through another supplier, COVAX. And so we have bought some, we have gotten some. We have gotten Pfizer because America has enough and they say they'll give us some. And that's the one they produce and use. And we are buying Johnson & Johnson. So there is no reason, no conspiracy, nothing about gift versus purchase. It's just a matter of availability
Okay.
and those willing to give versus those willing to sell.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point also, because I think sometimes people ask, why the University Hospital and the University of the West Indies, have vaccine centers. We don't trade in vaccines. We don't buy and sell vaccines. And none of us at the University Hospital or the University of the West Indies get paid to give vaccine. We believe that there should be a holistic strategy. We see the benefit of the country getting vaccinated because we see it at our doorsteps. We see it every single day when the system is overwhelmed or when people get sick. So we have taken the view, as I said at the start of the program, that prevention is better than cure. And therefore, we feel that we must not only help the population with information and education and the science. This is the same population who invested in us and who was invested in our hospital from 1948. And we feel we owe it to the public.
Have like some vaccine bliss.
This weekend and every day we're having vaccines on offer to people who, and we encourage people to come out. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be speaking to Pfizer and what will happen this weekend, particularly among the younger population, because what is showing is that more young people getting the virus, more young people end up in the hospital, and more young people are dying. So it's not an old people virus. It's not an old people disease. It is affecting all of us. So the Pfizer vaccine has been tested and proven for younger people, 12 years and older, and we're going to be targeting them for another reason, because we want them to go back to school in September. And it really is painful. And if for no other reason, the man in the street, Jamaicans out there in every corner, must feel bad about our young people, our children not going to school.
That's right.
And the virus has been a big part of that, because it spread to them, then to the adults, and it creates problems. We want our children to go back to school, so we need people to take the vaccine. And those young people, students who qualify, 12 years and older, we want them to take the vaccine also. Very, very important for us to promote that as an important part of going forward. And it's safe, the Pfizer, for the young people.
Absolutely. It's now even been tested for kids between 5 and 11 years old. So Pfizer has a trial going on for the younger kids also. But right now we're busy at the university because we're seeing more children with COVID, both neonates and children below 10. We are seeing people in the 20s. We are putting in a section in the pediatrics to handle those patients because it's clear that more of them are getting sick and need admission. But also, I think what's underestimated is students losing 2 to 3 years when they are in high school or in their career or when they're about to take exam. That's a real challenge. And people make the argument, well, they can have a gap year at the end after CXC or GC. They used to have a gap year. You can't have 3 gap years. And so we're worried that they might never, ever catch up. And so it's important at this point for parents and teachers and everybody to realize that we're in the 2nd year of the pandemic and we still have a challenge. We may be going into another year after this. We can debate all we want, but that's 3 years that our children will be missing out. And we need to be very careful as a nation that we don't solve this problem immediately.
So, Jay, you need to look for the needle when you take the vaccine. Because some people staying away because they're just afraid of the needle, How you dealt with it when you were taking it?
At the time, it was when the lady come up on the right arm, we'd already have focus on a lady over on the left part.
Oh.
So we never really see the needle still,
So somebody distract you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So comes, the needle going in.
Well, can I tell you, as somebody who shouldn't be, because as Minister of Health, I mean, I really like the needle either. And you'll be surprised to know how many Jamaicans don't take the vaccine.
Because of the needle?
Because the needle scare them. So I want to give a little tip. You tell me that you were distracted because you find the prettiest lady in the room and look to the lady.
That's right.
And by you look around the vaccine, get licked, right?
No.
I look away from the needle and focus on something else. Believe it or not. When I go to and by the way, I go to my annual checkup, which involves blood, pulling blood from the arm, and I don't like to see blood, by the way. And what I do, I put my hand out like this and I look the other direction. And then when the lab tech finish, she tie the thing and to get the vein. Then she said, "We're finished, Dr. Tufton." And I said, "Thank you very much." You put on the little thing. So for the vaccine, just don't look at it. And by the way, it's one of the smallest needles
I was about to say that
I've ever seen.
It's the smallest needle made. It's almost like a mosquito bite. So if you go out in the evening and mosquito bite you, then you can take a vaccine, don't worry about the needle. That's more, you see, people talk so much about needle that you talk yourself into fear. But it's such a small needle.
That's true.
And don't underestimate how good the Jamaican nurses are at delivering a vaccine. They are really good at that. They're really good at that.
They talk to you and by the time they finish talking, so we're finished. But this thing about people getting sick, and I know we have to close off now because time running, but the thing about people getting sick after the vaccine, that's a fear too. Because I know that because we talk about side effects.
Yes.
What we say is a minor side effect. People kind of, boy, why should I take something that will make me sick? And my response to that, and you can give me your clinical response, and you can tell me yours, because we all had the experience, is that, the kind of sickness is not really sickness.
It's not really.
As a matter of fact, the little side effects that you may get, because not many people don't get it. You take 2 Panadol after you take the vaccine, and you don't feel a thing. And if you feel a little dreary, you go rest, take 2 hours sleep. But what it really is not that it is hurting you. It is an indication that the vaccine is working. It's building you up to fight the virus. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from in the days of Latin, they used to say rubor, color, dolor. A little redness, a little fever, and a little pain. It means you're getting a robust response. The inflammatory response that you want to start developing the antibodies is taking set. So you just drink some fluids, and you can even take your Panadol even if you don't feel it, if you don't want to feel it. Just take your Panadols anyway and take your fluids. But many of people who were fearful of needles, etc., have now taken the vaccine and have come back and said, "Hey, I cannot believe that this is what I was worried about all this time."
It's not that bad. What was your experience? So you never feel sick or anything?
No, I didn't feel. It's just where the needle go in, like the next day, and you can really feel where it went in. But for me,
but it was worth it while you were looking at the lady.
Yeah, man. I tell you, man.
I figured.
All right. So before we close, Mr. Minister, where the people them can find the locations of the bliss?
All right. So the locations, we have some fixed sites in every parish. So normally in the town centers. So you have on the week you have Mandeville Hospital. You can get the site there or ask them and they'll show you where is a big hospital. So you just have to ask. You could go. In Kingston we have UWI. We have the National Arena. Over in Portmore, you normally have the Heart Academy. In Spanish Town, St. Diego Health Center. So in most major town centers, there's a site. So if you live in a town center, if you ask the health center where the site is, the hospital, as a matter of fact, if you call the parish council, they should be able to tell you. If you ask your councillor or your MP, they should be able to tell you. If you ask a nurse where they should be able to tell you. But we will also put it out on social media. If you're on social media, we'll put it in the on the news, that sort of thing. So there are many ways to find out, or you can go on the website, the Ministry of Health website. I know not everybody is techno-savvy, so therefore that's why I say you can ask, right? Beyond that, though, some of the sites change because we're going into communities. So you're going to hear when we're going to community town crier saying on Friday between the hours of 8 and 4, come down to the community center, the health center, we're going to do vaccination. So you can ask one of several people. You can check the Ministry of Health website. You can check social media. and those locations would be made available to you.
So like for the parents and where we're going to bring their kids, is there like a specific thing they must work with, like?
Well, normally we ask for, and I know this is a problem, and I'm glad you raised it, J Editor, the issue of the ID.
Yeah.
Some people say, why you need an ID? It's not a matter of, we're not trying to track anybody. Just like how there's no magnet in the vaccine to track people, or no 666. The ID is just to log, to put into your in a database to say that Chris Tufton has taken his vaccine on March 10th. He might have to take the other one 2 months' time. Or increasingly, what people don't understand is that when you travel, when you go to another country, they are going to ask you for a piece of paper to say if you have your vaccine. A vaccine is like a passport, right? That's what it's like. If you go to a country with yellow fever, or come from a country with yellow fever to Jamaica, we ask you at the airport, where is your vaccine passport? Where is your card that says you have the yellow fever shot? Otherwise, you can't come into the country, or we quarantine you and do your test. So the COVID virus is so contagious, you need to have a piece of paper that say you have had your vaccine. And if you notice, a lot of countries, Dr. Bruce, are now saying that for you to go to Canada, for example, they announce it, you have to have the vaccine. So you have your relatives and friends in Canada. You can't just jump on a plane because you have a Canadian visa to go visit them. You need to have the vaccine and evidence of it. So when we ask you for your IDs, because we want to log your name, log the date, put it in a thing, give you your card, so that it gives you the freedom as well as the protection. And that's very important. So it's a very good question you asked.
Yeah. You have to allow me though to talk to the people who are not saying this is
Sure.
Wrap it up now.
They last weekend they were able to get to Barbary Hall, Santa Cruz Health Center, Black River Health Center, and Junction Health Center. So I believe most of those places the ministry will use again. It was also at Mandeville Regional Hospital, as I said earlier. And then down in Hanover, it was at Lucy. And then in St. James, it was at the Sandals Inn and the Type 5 Health Center. So I have to tell the people in the West, too, because I want them to be protected, and I want to make sure that they are able to get the protection also. All right? So allow me that.
So it's my job to say we're going to wrap up now. So each of us will wrap up with a few little comments. You start, I'll go second, and then the man on the street will close off.
Perfect.
Well, you know, I'm really happy, first of all, for the invitation. And as I said at the start, the reason why I came is something very basic that I learned even before I got into medicine. Prevention is better than cure. We are seeing the challenges of COVID at the University Hospital at this time, and many hospitals across the country, and as a matter of fact, many hospitals throughout the region. We're a regional institution. And we're saying to people that the vaccines have been well studied and the vaccines have been given worldwide, billions of doses. If there was going to be a problem, a year after having this vaccine, we would have seen it already. But it's clear that the benefits of the vaccine far outweigh any challenges. We have a crisis now of misinformation, I call it. And people will tell you not to take the vaccine and tell you, okay, if you get sick, you can be at home and it might cost you $600,000 to $800,000 to get treatment at home. The average man on the street, the poor people, the most vulnerable people, cannot afford that. We have a safe alternative to prevent this problem. Let's get all aspects of our society going again. And the more we vaccinate, the virus has nowhere to go if we create this dead end. So let's try and get everybody out, including getting back our children to school.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bruce. And someone I've known for a while and who has done very well. And I know he used to wear short pants and take him vaccine before he went to primary school. So, and in my life, I've been taking this vaccine many, many years ago. And so have I. And the J editor here, also the man who pick up the vibes in the street, also younger than us, but nevertheless. I want to thank those who have been listening and thank those who have participated. Many questions have come in. We've tried to answer as many of them as possible. This is a useful exercise, not just for what we say, but for what we have collected, listen to, receive, so that we can, over the next weeks and months, deal with some of those issues to overcome some of the fear that people have. Now, I want to say as minister that, as a government, we appreciate that people may have questions and concerns. This is not an attempt at condemning anyone. It's not an attempt at forcing anyone. It's not an attempt at, sort of dictating to anyone. We want to hear the concerns, and we want to be in a position to help you to overcome those concerns, because we genuinely believe that the vaccines that are being made available are the best hope for you not to get COVID, to overcome the ill effects of COVID, including hospitalization and death. 1,300 and odd people have died. And to get us back to normal life, to go to work, to go to school, to go to your family dinners, your parties, your dance, your church service. The vaccine is what is going to save us. And, I bring a doctor here because I know maybe among all three of us here, I am the least credible. Because unfortunately, there's a view about politicians which, I don't like. But I understand that some people are very cynical and some people are very suspicious about what we say and the credibility of what we say. It's a dilemma that we have to deal with. And I know some do and some don't. But the science don't lie. The science don't lie. The research takes some time, despite what the distractions are. And just talk to your doctor, talk to your nurse, talk to somebody you respect who would have done that kind of research if you're not sure. Ask somebody a question if you're not sure, who you know can find an answer to that question. And invariably, you're going to hear that the vaccines are safe, they are good for you, and they provide protection for you. And so tonight is just one more of that discussion. It is saying, we are saying, take the opportunity to take the vaccine, because that is what will bring us back to life. And it has to be all of us. One for all for one. Every vaccine counts. Very important mantra. And I just close before I hand over to you, Mr. J. Editor, by saying, we're not paid for this. What we're doing here, we're not in league with Bill Gates or the pharmaceutical company or with anybody else. The doctor here is paid for doing doctor work up at the university. The editor here does his own work and he's paid for that. And of course, you know what I do. The truth is, none of us had to be on this program. We could have left it alone. And none of us not getting a check at the end of this program. We're doing it because we genuinely believe that this is important, and we are genuinely concerned that too many Jamaicans are not so sure. We want you to be sure. So I'm going to leave J. Editor to close and wish you good night and thank them for being here and thank you for being on the board, and to say, look out tomorrow for a location near you and build up that courage where you are uncertain, or ask questions to be certain. But ultimately, take the vaccine. It's in your best interest and the interest of your family, friends, community, and country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and as the minister said, we need to please do the research first before you start saying, me can't do this and me can't do that. As a matter of fact, before you get to I can't, you have to get to I can. So you see, from today, before you start saying, I can't do this, I can't, we have to get to I can first. So you see the apostrophe T, and you don't forget like 10,000 life sentence. You see what I say? So I can, the minister can, Mr. Bruce can, we all can, if we just work together, you know what I mean, we can bring this country back together. You know what I mean? So I don't know my thing set already like a chair ice. I'm out, like a candle.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
When your turn comes for the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is absolutely important. For those who have hesitancy and fear, and all of that is legitimate, it's healthy. But I believe we have seen the vaccine at work. We know what the risks are. There are no riskless activities in life. We urge you to participate in the national program and get vaccinated.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Booking your COVID-19 vaccination appointment is simple. Use one of two options. Option 1. Register using the online portal at the Ministry of Health and Wellness's website. Go to www.moh.gov.jm, click Apply Here for COVID-19 vaccinations, and follow the instructions on screen. Enter your mobile phone number. You will receive a text message with a one-time password. Enter it on the site to confirm your account. Fill in the information requested. Choose your parish and a vaccination center there. Then schedule a date and time convenient to you. You will receive a text confirmation with the details of your appointment. Option 2. You may also book your vaccination appointment via telephone. Call the National Vaccination Center at 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. A representative will take your information, book you at the nearest vaccination site, and register your appointment. You now have a vaccination appointment. For your first dose, when going to the site, take your TRN and a government-issued identification or letter from a Justice of the Peace. For your second dose, take to the appointment your vaccination card, TRN, and a government-issued identification or letter from a Justice of the Peace. You may ask a relative or friend to help you book your vaccination appointment. Book your COVID-19 vaccination appointment today. Get vaccinated. Get back to life.
Persons living with HIV can take the COVID vaccine. In fact, we advise them to take it, especially if you're someone who is taking your antiretroviral medication every day, as you should be. Then it means that your immune system is operating at a good level and you can take the vaccine. Now, even for persons who are not on treatment, as long as they're not seriously ill with HIV, then it is still advisable for them to take the vaccine, but make sure you take both doses of the vaccine so that you can get good